You would think for a community that just talks about books, there would not be as much drama as there is regularly. But there is. It feels endless. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Open Book Podcast. I'm your host Fran, and this is your source for all things bookish. Sorry that there has been a little bit of time between this episode and the last episode. I have been in the process of packing up this house to move into my new house, whilst also I had loads of hospital appointments in April. I'm having another surgery. 5th surgery, 4 years, ridiculous. But I've been kind of getting everything sorted for that, and like I said, in the throes of moving. So please excuse if you're watching this, the absolutely messy background of half shelves and things everywhere. Because I'm not fully in the other house yet. We started putting stuff in, but we're not in it. So yeah, that's where I've been. And today I am back to talk about book drama, because there's been a lot. J.K. Rowling has been on her bullshit again. I think this is going to be the last time I talk about J.K. Rowling. I made a whole podcast episode about her a few months ago, talking about kind of why it's really difficult to separate art from the artist when it comes to J.K. Rowling now, and my views on that. I got some comments of people actually wanting to have a conversation, and then also got comments from people that are just inherently massively transphobic, so I had to turn the comments on that one off, because I don't really stand for kind of the transphobicness being there for people to kind of see. I don't want that to be a thing. But she has been so bad again lately. I mean, she denied aspects of the Holocaust, which I just wouldn't have even thought, like, is even possible. Like, I cannot wrap my head around that. I could not wrap my head around the fact that that's something that she just did, like, so publicly and so cruelly is able to do things like that. I just think it's awful, and I think that's where a huge part of the conversation comes to, is that how can you look at someone that's doing things like this, who's actively causing harm right now, and still want to support that, and still think that she deserves a platform? Elon Musk, who agrees with her, who is also a massive transphobe and agrees with what she's saying, even told her to stop, basically, like, to stop her Twitter rants. Like, she's beyond just being, like, just not a very nice person. It's beyond that now. It's not just a little bit of, oh, well, I disagree with her. It's pure hatred. She's just spewing pure hatred, and I think that there definitely needs to be something, like, we can't keep, she, like, how is she still allowed a platform? How is she still allowed to be saying all of this stuff all the time? I literally cannot get my head around it. So I thought I would do a follow-up and just mention that this is probably the last time I'm going to talk about her, but wanted to sort of say on the podcast why that episode's comments were turned off, because, like I said, I do not stand for any transphobia, and basically just solidify my thoughts, as well as Daniel Radcliffe, who I love. He's wonderful, he has said that, you know, it makes him sad, but, like, she's wrong, basically. And yeah, she's been absolutely horrific. So yes, there will be no more J.K. Rowling on here. I did get a few comments of people saying, why didn't I still make Harry Potter content and then donate the money to charity? And again, I just don't want to platform her in any way. I donate money to charity regardless. I sold a lot of my Harry Potter stuff and donated it. Like, I just feel like even if I'm donating the money, I'm still platforming her by talking about the stuff she creates and her content. So that is kind of why I'm no longer making Harry Potter content, and why this will be the last time I'll talk about her. To the other two things that I want to talk about in this episode, mainly because they also both relate to things I've spoken about before, which is, again, why I want to kind of talk about them. So the first thing is Jack Edwards, who everyone, you know, if you're quite heavy in the book community, you might know of him. He's a content creator. He talks a lot about different books. Now, recently he kind of came under fire, and I think rightfully so, because I feel like it was a very kind of harsh and unnecessary judgment. But Beth Recalls, the author of The Kissing Booth, made a video where she said that she wrote 3 books. She's written 3 books this year so far, and this was April, so it was 4 months of the year and she'd written 3 books. And he made a video.
I just saw an author post on TikTok that she has written 3 books so far in 2024. It's April. And I just think, I don't know if that's the flex you think it is.
So that's me. I'm the author who posted that she wrote 3 books in 3 months, which I am very proud of. And I just thought I would add some context because that seemed to be missing from the original video.
So Beth then replied and was like, okay, I had deadlines that I thought were longer but then were shorter. Was very honest about the burnout this gave her. Was not saying this was like the best decision to make. And was like, the books aren't finished. Like, the books aren't going to print. Like, there's lots of editing that's going to be involved with these books. These are just initial drafts. And, like, if we go by NaNoWriMo, which is writing your first draft of a book in a month, she essentially had, like, 3 and a bit NaNoWriMos. 3 books make sense. That's doable. If that is your job, if that is the only thing you are doing, doable. Completely doable. Like, it's fine. Like, I don't understand what his problem was. His argument was, he's actually deleted the video now, with no acknowledgement that he ever posted it. But I think his argument was the fast fashion argument, which is why I wanted to talk about it, because my last podcast episode was about BookTok and fast fashion. The problem with publishing becoming fast fashion is not someone writing 3 books in 3 months. All 3 of those books are different books. They will be different stories released at different times and have, I assume, a regular print one, maybe a couple of special editions. The problem comes from when books come out that quickly, when they haven't been edited, which these books will be, when there's like 50 special editions of the same book, when different shops, when the same shop has multiple different editions. That's when it becomes a fast fashion situation. You are using publishing resources for like unnecessary reasons when it could be going on something that hasn't come out yet. That's the fast fashion argument. That's where the fast fashion plays into it, is that area. Not someone writing 3 books in 3 months and then spending however many months editing them and then them coming out. Everyone deserves that opportunity to release their books. Like, these books are going to come out at a regular speed, at a regular time, after being edited and edited and edited, after multiple different drafts. So his argument is completely invalid. It just felt like such a petty video. I don't understand, like, why is, like, Stephen King, Brandon Sanderson, why are they allowed to release multiple books a year? Why are they allowed to? It's praised when it's them. It's like, oh my God, Stephen King's work. Like, people praise Stephen King's work ethic because of the way he writes and the way that he is able to get books out so fast. Why is it different when it's a rom-com? Why is it different when it's a female author? Like, why are you so angry about that? Like, it was the weirdest video. Like, it felt so, like, pretentious and petty and so silly. And I felt so sorry for Beth. Like, she was really honest about how stressful it was and how, like, she had deadlines she didn't realise was so soon, and one of them was supposed to be August and then it was pushed up, and she used the I cry a lot but I am so productive, the, like, Taylor lyric as like a don't do this, wouldn't recommend type thing. And I didn't think there was anything wrong with her video, and I did not think there was anything wrong with writing 3 books in 3 months. I wish I'd written 3 books in 3 months. I wish I had, like, you know, I wish I'd sat down. I wish I had that kind of work ethic and I would not just procrastinate all the time. So it just felt so unfair. Like, I couldn't really get my head around where he was coming from. Like, I don't know, it just felt very strange. And he just hasn't acknowledged it at all and hasn't said anything. But I think that's not the conversation with fast fashion. You know, that's not the conversation that people are having when it comes to publishing and fast fashion. Someone writing 3 books in 3 months is not the issue. It's the issue of the speed of the publishing, which, again, these ones are going to be taking their sweet time, and whether or not they're edited and different editions and that kind of thing. That's where the problem lies. And, you know, BookTok is sort of, the special editions are a problem because there's so many, and also books are being sold very, very cheaply on the TikTok shop, so that's also part of the problem when it comes to fast fashion. Not someone writing 3 books to meet a deadline and then those 3 books being public. Like, it doesn't make sense. So yeah, I'd love to know people's thoughts about this. Actually, it just felt like a really, really passive aggressive, petty video. Like, I didn't really get my head around it. Why is it why was she criticized? She didn't do anything wrong. It just felt really, really bizarre. But yeah, I wanted to talk about that because, like I said, I'd spoken about the fast fashion thing, and I wanted to reiterate that that's not the problem. The problem lies in other areas of publishing, not someone meeting their deadlines. That's not the issue. So I wanted to kind of reiterate that because that was his argument. And then, my goodness, the biggest thing that's happened recently in the book community is the Freydís Moon situation. And the reason why I'm talking about this again, not talking about this again, but the reason why I'm talking about this is because I did a video like a couple of months ago about everything that's on my Kindle Unlimited, and I mentioned 2 books by Freydís Moon that I hadn't read yet that I was so excited to read. Like, I was absolutely buzzing to read. Turns out Freydís Moon is not who they say they are. Let's go all the way back to 2020. Author Taylor Barton, also known as Taylor Brooke, was bullying other authors of colour, was being very racist, was bullying them, was rightfully so called out for doing this. They apologised, but like, the damage was done, basically. Again, rightfully so. I don't understand how you think you can be racist and just get away with it. Dropped by the publisher. Books kind of just went out to print. Agent dropped them. And kind of just left the internet, and just kind of that was that. So was thought. Then they used a pen name, Brooklyn Ray, and would argue with people in defense of Taylor Barton as Brooklyn Ray. So this was the start of Taylor Barton using pseudonyms and pretending to be other people, was this Brooklyn Ray. Taylor Barton donated to the Trevor Project in response to the racist allegations, which is bizarre because the Trevor Project is an LGBT organisation. It is not Black owned. It was a very bizarre charity to choose. I mean, it's not a bizarre charity, it's a wonderful charity. I love the Trevor Project, but in response to racism allegations, peculiar decision. Emery Lee, the author, called them out and was like, why have you done this? Like, they're not Black owned. And then Taylor admitted that their apology was only posted because their publisher told them to do it. And then just kind of vanished off the internet. And that was that. Then, new author comes on the scene, Jupiter Wise. Got an agent, was releasing a new book. Exciting times. People realised pretty soon that this was Taylor Barton posing as a different author. Noticed that like pictures they would post was the exact same as other pictures that Taylor would post, different, like the same room, the same area, like it was very clearly Taylor Barton. But the thing that came out of the Jupiter Wise situation is they pretended to be Latinx, right? And like specifically stated, it wasn't implied, it wasn't like something that people just sort of thought. They specifically stated that they were Latinx, right? Jupiter's agent for this time around, Tara, says that Jupiter lied about the identity and didn't want a video call due to dysmorphia, which was then respected. So like, fair play to Tara for being really respectful of that, but didn't want a video call for that reason. Obviously we now know it's likely because if they'd video called, we might have seen Tara might have recognised Taylor Barton, and also would have seen not a Latinx person. Tara then dropped Jupiter Wise. 2022 rolls around. Author Freydís Moon, queer, fantasy, paranormal romance author, identified again as Latinx, is the author of the Gideon Testaments, the 2 books that I spoke about in my video, in my Kindle Unlimited video. That was the video that I spoke about. I was really excited, very like praised author. People were really excited about their books. People really loved their books. Apparently they are really good. I actually hadn't got around to reading them, so I haven't actually read them yet. But I did swiftly return them after this. I have no longer, I do no longer have them. So readers, like, realised a few things when it came to Freydís Moon. It didn't quite add up. Like, there were a few things that people were sort of raising their eyebrows about. The first one was that Freydís Moon sent pages of a book to beta readers, and they realised that it was really, really similar to one of Jupiter Wise's drafts. Now, obviously, people are wondering if this was like plagiarism and why they were very similar. So they're almost identical to a Jupiter Wise draft. There are a few changes, but other than that, they are pretty identical. There's an entire Google Doc that I will link in the description of this episode, that you can go and you can see all of these differences, and you can see the kind of deep dive that people have done in order to expose Taylor Barton for this. And then there's also, on one of them, an author's note, like in the document. You know, like when he says if you collaborate on a document and you can see who's in it, and instead of it saying Freydís, it said Taylor Brooke. Which I feel like that's a if you're going to pretend to be someone else, at least do it well. Like, that's so yeah. And then St. Harlow, who it was also someone, admits that this was also them, and this was another pseudonym that they used. And they admitted that it was them. Freydís admitted it was them. And author M.J. Huntsgood was bullied by St. Harlow while being comforted by Freydís Moon, right? So the same person is both bullying someone and then acting like another person to comfort them, and then admitted that they were the same person. That is so bizarre. That is the weirdest situation. Like, what type of person? It's such a bizarre power dynamic as well, knowing that you are the reason you're upsetting someone, and then also, like, comforting them. Like, that's so strange, and it's such a weird attitude to have, and it's this very bizarre dynamic and this very weird relationship, and I really don't understand what was going through their mind when this was happening. Link below as well, there's like a Grapey did a whole thread on Taylor, and there's like a whole thing about like their different aliases and everything that kind of points to it being them currently, right? So at Betty Nicole Reed on Twitter, X, has written down that the known aliases of Taylor Barton is Taylor Barton, Taylor Brooke, Brooklyn Way, Jupiter Wise, Hunter Taylor, Bailey Green, Cordelia Lynn, St. Harlow, Freydís Moon, Hunter Llewellyn, Stacey Anthony, Danella Vega. And I'm just like, why? Like, this is crazy. Like, there's just so many people they're just pretending to be. Faye Crate dropped their books. And even got Freydís to sign away the rights to profit. So the fact that Freydís did this is kind of like, there was no kind of like contest. They didn't contest it. They didn't say, no, everyone else is lying. They signed away their right to profit, and Faye Crate dropped them, which I think does speak volumes. I think a lot of people have been saying, how do we know for sure? But I think that in itself does speak volumes. The fact that they did that and were willing to sign away their right to profit. If you were actually who you said you were, you would be insistent that it is actually you, and you would be able to prove that. They obviously cannot. So it speaks volumes that they signed away their right to profit and was allowed to do that. Rainbow Crate have also said they're not going to work with them in the future. And then Taylor, Freydís, Jupiter, all the people, blocked loads of minority authors as well, and people that were calling them out. So as of right now, Freydís Moon has been exposed for being Taylor Barton, and there's still loads of things ongoing. I'll link the Google Doc below, and I think it kind of opens this conversation of like, when is using a pseudonym not okay, and how are some people allowed to use pseudonyms? What, you know, I saw some people say, you know, pseudonyms are fine, but I think in this situation it's not the fact that a pseudonym was used, it's the intent behind it. Using the pseudonym in a very malicious way. They were 100% pretending to be someone that they weren't intentionally. It wasn't like they weren't kind of like being ambiguous with who they were. They were very clearly pretending to be someone from they were pretending to be a person of color. They were pretending to be someone from a different background as their own. They were pretending to be someone else and pretending that they could relate to other authors of colour and Latinx authors' experiences. I saw Aidan Thomas, the author of Cemetery Boys, talking about it and talking about kind of their experiences with them and kind of how it makes him feel. And I think that that's exactly it. It was never just using a pseudonym. It was done with a very malicious intent, especially when you're someone who has been called out in the past for racism. It seems very bizarre that then you're using a pseudonym to pretend to be a different race. Like, it was bizarre. Then also using different pseudonyms to bully people and then comfort them from another pseudonym was very strange. And it's kind of trying to, they keep trying to put themselves into spaces that they're not welcome in, that they're not a part of. I think minority spaces exist to help protect the minority. They exist so that minority people can come together to be in a safe space, because so much of the world is not safe for them. So minority spaces exist to help people, and there is a disproportionate amount of authors of colour. It's a well-known fact. It is a well-known fact. There needs to be more diversity in publishing. There needs to be more awareness of the limitations that authors of colour face. And there does need to be more, and there needs to be more diverse books and more diverse authors and more diverse experiences. So to insert yourself into a space which you don't belong in, you're not welcome in, and to then also take up the publishing, you had a publishing, you published 2 books under the Freydís Moon pseudonym about people and experiences that aren't yours, and you put yourself in spaces that aren't yours. That's so violating. I can't really wrap my head around why you would do that, and why you would seek the help of a community that's willing to, that was so welcoming and willing to help you and was so excited for your success, when you're not a part of that community. You don't get to do that. You don't get to take the time and the effort away from people of colour. You don't get to use their better reading services or ask them for advice on your books about people of colour, when your stories are just not, you're not a person of colour. It's really bizarre to me, and I it's more than just using a pseudonym. There's such a bizarre intent behind it, and that's why, rightfully so many people are pissed off at what they did. It's not a good thing. It isn't fair. You don't get to take those spaces away. Your books being published could have been to actual diverse authors who might not have had, who could have had the opportunity instead of you in the space that's not yours, that's their space. So it goes much beyond just the pseudonym, and I hope that people can kind of realise that, and I hope that it means there's kind of, it's so difficult, because I understand, if someone said they were having dysmorphia and they didn't want to be on camera, but I do feel like there maybe needs to be, at least from a publisher end, more kind of lockdown of who people are, because it's been very easy for them to pretend to be multiple different people, and in every instance of being those different people has caused harm, and significant harm. So I think that there needs to be kind of a little bit more going into that, just because it's scary how easy it was for them to pretend to be someone else, and to put themselves into spaces that's not theirs. So I think that there definitely needs to be more conversation and kind of crack down on a publicist end as well. So yeah, a little bit of book drama been going on recently. I am back posting this podcast regularly. Like I said, I'm still in the throes of moving, but hopefully this will be more regular. I'm very tired, and we can get back to talking about it on this podcast more often. Pride Month is coming up, so all of Pride Month there will be queer related episodes. I mean, a lot of my stuff's queer anyway. I don't actually really fully know how to make totally straight content. If I like talk about a straight book too many days in a row, I don't really understand what I'm doing. I asked on Instagram for people if they had any ideas of things they wanted me to talk about. So if you guys have any ideas of Pride Month related podcast episodes, do let me know in the comments. And I'd love to know your thoughts on all of the things that we spoke about today. And we can have a discussion in the comments. Thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Open Book Podcast. As usual, all the links to everything else will be in various descriptions, and you can come check me out there. And I also really appreciate it if you guys follow the podcast. It really, really, really does help, regardless of what platform. So whatever platform you're listening on, please give me a follow and a like. And I hope you guys are doing really, really well. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.